Hi everyone, this is going to be about Wasp. So to get started, to get the plugin, the general place you get plugin is Food for Rhino. And for Food for Rhino, you need to log in with an account. And you can get Wasp from here. The problem is Andrea Rossi has released a newer version that's newer than what's here. So I think the latest that you can get from Food from Rhino, which is the typical place you would get plugins, um, is going to be 0.5. So if you go Andrea Rossi, who's the creator of Wasp, did it for his PhD. So go to his GitHub page. And easiest is just click this code button and download the whole zip drive. And then that will just download in the same folder structure. And what you're going to want to do is go into releases, go into Wasp 6. See if I can. I wasn't sure if this worked in class, but yeah, I wonder, do you need to be logged in? So the best thing to do is, because it definitely works, is just download the whole thing. And then when you take that file, just right click it and go properties. And with properties, go unblock. And that should be your first move on any downloaded file. Then you can unzip it, probably extract it. So to extract, you would click right click and extract, and then click yes, extract. It's generally not a good idea to move files from a non-extracted folder, so probably best off just extracting it. So now you've got this folder, you can go to your releases, and also extract the 006 folder. Okay, and then I can close this because I don't need any more. I'm only going to get files out of the 6 folder. So I basically want this WASP and user objects file, and I need to basically bring them into Citrix, and then just say go to Autodesk. So you can basically, I think copying to the desktop is easiest. Did I copy? I don't think it did. So you can go up here and go file upload. And then we need to go find that folder. So wasp master, releases, wasp 6. Let's just bring in this whole folder. This folder. Maybe you can only bring in files. Okay. Bring in the whole zip folder of the 0.6. Bring that onto the desktop. Then extract that. Extract that here. And you can, when you have extracted, you can delete the zip folder. And now we can go into this. And now I've got this user objects and WASP folder. And that's the two that we really need. So if I go open Grasshopper, go to your components folder, which strangely, even though it's called components in Grasshopper, it's called libraries here. Okay. So the WASP folder gets copied into libraries. Then go one folder up. So up here at the top, libraries, Grasshopper. Go Grasshopper into user objects, and then copy user objects to the user objects folder so that it looks like this. It's just user objects inside of user objects. And then also within libraries, you need to get the GHPython2 file, which is going to be from might be easier actually to open a web browser in Citrix and sign in there. So you'd go Food for Rhino. And go GHPython. So no spaces, GHPython, and get the version that, so GHPython, not the remote version. And you could download this version here. You need to be signed in. 0.6 at the top there. Take that file. When you get the file, right click, properties, unblock. It's really important. And then copy that into the Grasshopper libraries section. So when you're done, what you should have is you should have GHPython and WASP in this libraries folder, and you should have user objects in the user objects folder. When you have those three things in their places, then close Grasshopper, restart it. Sorry, close Grasshopper, close Rhino, restart them. And then when you open it, you should have a folder up here or a ribbon menu called WASP. And when you've that, then that's good to get started. That means it's properly working. Well, it means the user objects are in the right place. But hopefully if you did all the other steps correctly, that means it's working. Okay, so now we can draw any box. Maybe this time I'll just do a really long kind of box. I'm not even going to measure it, just it doesn't really matter. And I want to basically do connections on this box, and then I'm going to put the brep and the connections into Grasshopper, and then we can use WASP to make them into an aggregation. So for the first one, I'm going to get a diagonal here. So I've just done polyline, and I've got like the diagonal from one corner to the other. The snaps need to be on. So this end snap here over an O snap, so that I can actually snap to the end points of this geometry. When that's on, I can create a point. So a single point up here on the midpoint. And then what's really important is to create the connection. The connection must be a polyline that starts from this point. So start from the point and go north to the midpoint, which is there. Then I can delete the diagonal because I don't need that. And that's what my connection is going to be. So to get started, we're going to do one connection on this side and one connection on the other end, which once I've got this point and curve going the right way, and I can just copy it. So copy to the midpoint, and of course midpoint needs to be on here in the snaps so that you can actually snap to a midpoint. And then I can reference that in. So I need a brep, a point, which is going to be multiple points, but point component, and curve. So right click set one brep and set the brep, and that does that. And I could internalize them now. If you don't internalize, means when you save this, it's not going to actually save the geometry. You'd need to save the Rhino file separately, and if you don't save it, then you're only really saving half your work. So now that I've internalized this, I could delete it. I'm going to need it later again so I can snap to it for my other connections that I make. So then point, set multiple points. I can go 1, 2. What's really important is, so firstly, that these curves start from the point and go to the edge or go wherever. And secondly, that when I select multiple objects, the points and the curves are in the same list order, because each point needs to match each curve. So if this is the first one you select and this is second, then when you do the curves, this needs to be first, this needs to be second. If you mix up that order, especially if you have 10 connections or something, that they're not going to work, because the point needs to be on the curve. If it's not, it's just not going to work. So to do WASP, we're going to make some parts. It's going to be first. This is kind of roughly the same setup, no matter how complicated we get things. Then we want some rules. And then we want to aggregate. Okay, so, and you can kind of see that lines up here on the top thing where you have elements, parts, rules, constraints, which we're not going to cover in this first session, fields, aggregation. So we can choose stochastic aggregation as our form of aggregation we're going to do. Put that there. Let me just put my footpulse in. So this is WASP stochastic aggregation from the aggregation. For the rules, we can just do rules generator. This is sort of an automatic, like sort of autopilot for rules, which is the easiest to use for the first go. And we can use this get part geometry at the end here. Disconnect that. That's so we can actually get the geometry out of WASP. This component doesn't actually preview any geometry, so you need this to preview it. Whoops. So then from parts, we're going to do a basic part. And then from elements, we need a connection from a direction, which is how we're going to do this part here. So you can kind of read geo, that's going to be the geometry that is the brep, this big box. So it connects to both of them. Then this connection and this connection, same word, and they connect. That. Then the center and the up is going to be our points. So it's going to go red there. If all your components are red, it means that WASP is not installed. And need to go back in this video to where the installation was done and redo those steps. And then lastly, I think it just needs a name. Needs a name. So we can just call this box. Okay, then on this side, the part, you can see part to part, so part to part. And then also there's a part here, so this part goes all the way to here. If we move this down slightly, R goes to rules, because this is our rules generator. And then if we just come here, we need N, which is going to be a slider. We can do really big aggregations, so let's do 1,000 slider, but move it down just when we get started to something smaller. And because Wasp has a problem with resetting. You need an actual button for the reset. And you'll probably see how that works later. So this get geometry here is what's allowing us to preview the geometry. That's going through as 133 meshes because we're getting 133 parts. And they're just basically attached onto the edge, sort of mirrored on that connection, that initial connection there. So if I turn this off for a second and come back here, I'm going to bake this again because I deleted it the last time. So I get that back. And I just want some of these other connections in different places. So if I just select, I can see 1.1 curve selected. So I want to put this somewhere around the corner here. It doesn't really matter the distance, but I don't want this one centered. And then I'm also going to put it on this corner. Again, not centered. And then I'm going to rotate it on the top. So I just put it here as a before I select it. So curve and point. Then I'm going to do rotate 3D. And the axis of rotation is going to be this top edge. And rotate from that point to there. And this extra point appears, which is just the end point of the point. If you get that, I'm not worried about the curve points, but I'm just worried more about the actual point as a discrete point. I'm going to mirror it there. I'm going to move it to the underside. So I was just mirroring it to get it the other direction. And then let's move to the underside here. I can delete this again and show these. So I'm going to need two other connections. And I like to just clear values out of these just to make sure the previous values don't remain. I'm going to do a merge component to merge these connections. So merge, merge, merge. And then when they're merged, they go and they get flattened here into that connection. Okay. And now I can set multiple points here. For this one, I'm going to do the two sides ones. So here and here, enter. And then this one, matching the order for 1 and 2. And then this is going to be the tops. 1 and 2, and 1 and 2. Okay, so now let's see how this looks. So that reset, it needed the reset. So let me do custom preview so that I sort of get a solid looking geometry as opposed to and just to show, rather than using one color, I want to do a gradient, but of the order that these were created in. I didn't do this in class, but it's just useful here. So if we do a series and a list length, which we've done this before. So I want the total list of geometries to create the length of that list, how many sort of objects are here in the scene, make a count, which makes 0, 1, all the way to 32, and that can go into parameter. So that's going to line up 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 132, which will be red. And then the list length upper limit will be the upper limit. So this will go from 0 to 132. Pick the colors, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 32. And that can be my list of colors. So I can see all the blues kind of in the center where it started as a part, and then it sort of added the oranges and the reds further out. And if I grow this further, all the way to 1,000, I can see that where the blues are, where the reds are, as in like it started from the center and then it kind of expanded its way out. So we go back. Maybe we could just turn this and use yeah, so it's dark towards the center and light towards the edge. Okay, and as one last thing, I just want to add names on these connections. So this first one was, let's say, ends. Second one was sides. And this is the sort of top and the bottom. I'm just going to call it tops. So currently, if I was to read these rules, so this generator is automatically generating every connection to every connection because I haven't sort of specified anything more specific. And therefore, there are a total of 35 links, and it's just creating all of them so that box on sort of edge 4 will connect to, or edge 3 will, connection 3 will connect to connection 5, but also to 4, to also to 3, to also to 2, also to 1, to 0, connection 4. So if I want to be more specific with this, let's just connect each one to their similar. So we have ends, sides, and tops. And the way we do that is ends greater than ends, sides greater than sides, and tops greater than tops. And this just means that the top can only connect to another top, the side only to another side, and the ends only to another end. Turn on multi-line, I put that into the GR, which is the grammar. And now I can see that the total rules has decreased from 30-something to 12 because there's 0 to 11. And if I see what that happens now, that it's like really, really flat. It's some, let's just go turn this up. So there's definitely some thickness to it. So see there. All right, and that's our example. If you did it a bit thicker, it might make more like a brick, but and feel free to play around with even these basic things here. Like let's say tops can also connect to sides, and tops can also connect to ends, and then regenerate. And now we get something else. You can see the rules. We probably don't have all 30 of the rules now. So now we have 19 of the rules created. Okay. So each time we do this button, it will regenerate, and the end. That's probably as much as we can control now. We also can go, just as one last thing, let's say, filter parts by name. So if we part, actually, I'll show you this later because yeah, we only have one part. You can also filter them by other things, but we only have one part, so it doesn't make much sense to filter yet. But when we get multiple parts, I'll do the filter. All right. See you in class.